Mark Rogers TV talking SEC football after a huge Saturday in which the league was shaken up with a Georgia loss against Auburn and going down hard to the Tigers 40-17. We provide you with some of the stats that shaped conference play on Saturday, starting with that game with the Tigers over the Bulldogs 40-17. Auburn and its defensive front held Nick Chubb to 2.5 yards per carry, Sony Michel to 2.3 yards per carry. All told, Georgia ran it 32 times for 46 yards. And of course, sacks are included in college stats. I hate that. It makes no sense. But still, 32 carries for the Bulldogs for 46 yards. That's just 1.4 yards per carry. Kerryon Johnson, on the other hand, on the flip side, carrying the load all by himself for the Auburn rushing attack. 32 carries against Georgia for $167. DERRIUS Slayton catches big passes. He goes downfield. He gains a ton of yards per reception. 2 catches on the day for 43 yards, including a big 42-yard reception to break the game open. But that brings down at 21.5 yards per catch his yards per reception total on the season. 15 catches this season for Slayton for 296 yards. That's 29.6 yards per catch and his 4th touchdown against Georgia. And during the span of time in which Auburn took over this game and ran out to a 23-7 lead, after Georgia scored on a 70-yard drive to open the game, Auburn held Georgia on 22 plays to 35 yards. Georgia came into the game averaging about 450 yards of total offense per game. They were held by Auburn to 230 yards. Bama comes back to defeat Mississippi State in Starkville 31-24. Damian Harris, just 8 carries, but a 93-yard day. That's 11.6 per carry. That ups his average on the season to a stout 8.4 yards per carry. Calvin Ridley with a big day, 5 receptions for 171 yards. That's his first, yes, Calvin Ridley's first 100-yard reception day this season. You have to go back to mid-2016 to find his career high, just 3 yards more than against Mississippi State when he racked up 174 receiving yards against Kentucky in 2016. Mark McLaurin, a tackling machine for Mississippi State. He had 11 total tackles and 1.5 sacks. On Alabama's side, Rashaan Evans coming up with the big plays defensively. 9 total tackles, 1 sack, 2.5 tackles for loss. Mississippi State owned the time of possession, 39 to 22 minutes, but Bama came up with the big plays. They outgained Mississippi State 444 to 330, despite running 16 fewer plays. Dan Mullen is now 0-9 against Alabama. Nick Saban now 10-1 against Mississippi State, having lost to the Bulldogs in his first season at Alabama in 2007. LSU 33 and Arkansas 10. DERRIUS GUICE with a big day, 21 carries for $147. That's his 4th 100-yard rushing effort this season and his 11th in his career on the Bayou. Total tackles for LSU, Devin White, 14. Donnie Alexander, 12. Dante Jackson had a big day with 2 tackles for loss and 2 passes defensed. Freshman Andres Williams for LSU now with 4 interceptions on the season. And finally, Ole Miss defeated Louisiana 50-22. The Rebels now 5-5. They cannot go to a bowl game, but they're playing for a winning season under interim coach Matt Luke. 5-5, and they've got Texas A&M and Mississippi State left. It was the Jordan show for the Rebels in Oxford. Jordan Ta'amu, 418 yards passing. The New Mexico Military Institute transfer has now in 3 starts thrown for 318 yards, 382. Make that 368, 382, and 418, if I can read my writing, 74% completion percentage for Ta'amu. And Jordan Wilkins, 14 carries for 124 yards for the Rebels. That's his 4th 100-yard effort on the ground this season. And what about sophomore wide receiver A.J. Brown? 14 receptions for 185 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's his 5th time hitting the century mark in receiving yards this season, but it's not his high mark. That came in game number 1 against Seth, Alabama, when Anthony Brown caught passes for 233 yards for the Rebels. Mark Rogers TV talking SEC football, just running down some of the stats that meant something on the day on Saturday. We'll be back with more key stats from the weekend right here on Mark Rogers TV.